The Lofree Flow 2 has been getting a mixed bag of reviews depending on where you look. If you're on YouTube, you'll find generally positive reviews about this keyboard and the build quality and how it feels and how it works with whatever setup you might have. Whereas if you go on Reddit, there are a lot more disgruntled people who are complaining to Lofree and telling them that, hey, you're not listening to your fans. Well, in this video, I hope that I can sit somewhere in the middle and give you my honest thoughts about the Lofree Flow 2. Let's get into it. First of all, let's get the design and the build quality out of the way first. It's made out of a hunky piece of metal. It's pretty well built. You know, it's solid. It's heavy and hefty, so it's not going to move around on your desk. It's definitely not one to travel with, but also it's, really well built. That's the build. Now let's focus to the design part of the design and build. I, alongside a lot of other Redditors, am unsure about this extra width on the right side of the keyboard. It makes the keyboard a bit lopsided, which, for me, as someone who isn't the fastest typer in the world, I look down, I put my hands in the middle, and actually the middle isn't the middle. I have to shift a little bit just because everything is just a bit off to the left side. Whereas if you compare it to another keyboard where both the spacings on the left and right are equal, we put it next to the keyboard, my hand goes in the middle and it's the middle of the surface area of a keyboard. That isn't the same here, so it's a bit of an annoying thing to just have to adjust when I'm typing, especially as, like I said, I'm not the best or the fastest of typers. So yeah, I don't know what they're trying to do here. Yeah, there's an LED light here that shows you how much battery you have, and they've got this little volume rocker, which we'll get to in a second, and the USB port here as well. But I think they could have made it work and made it just uniform in terms of its design. Now let's talk about the buttons and the features that this keyboard has. So we'll get to the keyboard and how it feels when you're typing at the end. But before that, there are a couple of other features that I want to talk about. The first one is this volume rocker, which is like a touch-sensitive volume rocker. It works really well, don't get me wrong. You can go up and down like you would with a rocker, and its sensitivity is pretty good as well, which is great. The only problem is when I pick the keyboard up, where do you want me to hold this keyboard? Am I supposed to hold it like this rather than from the side? Because as soon as I pick it up from the side, I change the volume and it's just not great. I have to readjust the volume. So it's a neat little feature which I think they didn't really think about when it comes to portability of the keyboard. Now, if you're going to have the keyboard on your desk, you're not really going to move it about much, right? So in that sense, okay, fine, right? I move it around, but maybe some of you won't move it around, and that's not as big a deal for you. In that case, the volume rocker is quite nice. But for me, it's, I'd say I could lose that. Now, right above the volume rocker is the USB-C port. Again, I don't know why it's on the side and not just on the top. Another weird feature, but it's there. It's a minor one. But the biggest gripe that I have with this keyboard is turning it on and off. To turn it on and off, you've got to lift the leg. Oh, the wrong one. You've got to lift the leg, and then the switch is under the leg. Now, it's quite nice because they've kind of hidden it. But God, man, every time I have to turn it from my Bluetooth to wide connection or turn it off, I have to lift the leg, and it's just not a great place to put it, man. Not a big fan. So they're the extra bits on the keyboard. The volume rocker is a pretty cool feature, but the biggest annoyance for me is this having to lift the leg to reach for the buttons to turn it on and off. Let's talk about the software side of things. Right, a keyboard that costs as much as this surely has really good software for you to customize the layout or the button setup or whatever it might be, right? Wrong. I've been on the internet, World Wide Web, and I have yet been able to connect this onto any kind of software on the laptop where I can actually change any of the settings. It's not good. It's really, really, really not good. It should be simple to get this connected up to an open source software, which is what they've said they're doing with this keyboard. You're supposed to connect it to via app, and it should automatically work. But for some reason, it just doesn't work for me. I connect it, it finds the keyboard, but then none of the customizations are possible. So there's clearly something wrong, either with the open source app, which I don't want to blame, but these guys are charging a lot of money for it, so either invest in the open source and build it better, or help build it better, or provide your own software like they have done with the Lofree Lite 2, where they've got their own proprietary software for you can customize it, right? So I have yet to customize this. So what's possible? I don't know, but I haven't been able to customize anything. So that's not a good look. Right, if you've made it this far, you probably think Sohail doesn't like this keyboard. The only thing he likes is the build quality, which is kind of true because I've been pretty negative about the experience I've had with the software, this extra side here, some of the buttons and the layout. But there is one big key component which people need to think about when they're buying a keyboard, which is how does it feel to use the keyboard, right? Doesn't matter if it feels great, doesn't have the buttons in the right place, but if the typing experience is great, then, you know, people can forget about a lot of things. So what do I make of the typing experience? I would give it a B plus or even an A minus. I think it's a pretty good keyboard to type on. The keycaps are really nice and the travel is pretty good and it's a gasket mount, so it's pretty solid in terms of how it feels. And the typing experience as a whole, once you forget the fact that there's like this extra bit, for someone like me, I have to kind of shift my fingers a little bit. This way, when I pick the keyboard up, aside from that fact, it's a pretty good keyboard to type on. Or, you know, I would say an A minus isn't a bad keyboard to type on. The typing experience is very good. So where does that leave us with the Lofree Flow 2? Do I recommend this keyboard? I'll go back to the first thing that I said at the beginning of the video. There are two sets of crowds here. One is on Reddit and one is on YouTube, and it depends on which type of person you are and what kind of crowd you're in. If you're looking for your first keyboard, I'd definitely consider it alongside the Newfie Air version 3, which I've got here. It's definitely a keyboard worth considering. If you're one of those people that leans towards having a minimal desk setup and everything looking pretty, then this is definitely a keyboard to consider, even though it has a lot of shortcomings in my opinion. The keyboard experience, the typing experience is good enough for you to probably forget about the fact that you're, you know, having to do a bit of weird stuff with the touch volume rockers or the USB-C port for charging. But if you're someone who's maybe in the middle, who has a little bit of knowledge about keyboards, or if you're a super nerdy keyboard kind of person, then I probably wouldn't recommend this keyboard, because for the same reasons as I wouldn't say I'm a keyboard geek, but I do have a bit of knowledge and I think I understand about keyboards. Some of my videos have even got to 100,000 views, so maybe people like to listen to me with my average thoughts on my keyboard. So for someone like me, I don't think this is probably a keyboard. So if you're someone like me, you should subscribe. But if you're a keyboard nerd or even know a little bit about keyboard, I'd probably avoid this one because it just has a few too many shortcomings, which I hope Lofree listen to and improve upon. But for me, the biggest gripe, I can forgive the ability to volume rock and the USB-C port, or even having to open this and then change whether it's on or off. It's the software. You know, when you're charging people so much money for a keyboard, I expect the company to have a reasonable understanding of software and what should be provided when you're selling a mechanical keyboard. And everyone else in the market, forget about everyone else, even you yourself, Lofree, in this market, are providing a good enough software experience with some of your other keyboards. So the fact that this doesn't have it, it's not good. That's all from me. That was the Lofree Flow 2. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next.